the used bookstore owner. Samuel had always believed that books were more than just objects. They were gateways to other worlds, vessels of thought, and keepers of memory. Born and raised in the East Village of New York City, he had grown up wandering the narrow streets lined with murals, cafes, and the faint scent of incense and coffee. The neighborhood, vibrant yet gritty, had shaped his worldview. Art, culture, and rebellion were intertwined in the very fabric of life there. At 35, Samuel owned a small, weathered bookstore tucked between a vinyl record shop and a vegetarian cafe. Its faded sign reads Second Chapters, and inside, the scent of old paper, ink, and dust mingled into a heady aroma that made every visitor feel immediately transported. The bookstore was more than a business. It was Samuel's life's work, a sanctuary for the literarily inclined. Yet the East Village, for all its charm, was changing rapidly. Chain bookstores and online retailers were spreading through the city, drawing away the foot traffic that had once sustained small, independent shops. Each passing day, Samuel noticed fewer regulars and more empty shelves, the margins shrinking despite his best efforts. It was a quiet kind of anxiety, the kind that grew in the chest like a persistent weight. The neighborhood he loved was at risk of losing its cultural heartbeat, and with it, the space where stories lived and breathed. Samuel decided he could not simply wait for customers to return. He began curating a collection of rare and out-of-print books that could not easily be found elsewhere. First editions, signed copies, unique signs, and obscure literary journals found new homes on the worn wooden shelves of Second Chapters. Samuel knew each volume intimately, its history, its author, its quirks. He could spend hours explaining the provenance of a 1920s poetry collection or the significance of a forgotten East Village literary magazine. His knowledge became a bridge between generations, older patrons reminiscing about the neighborhood's past, and younger readers discovering hidden gems of literary history. Alongside his rare books, Samuel organized local author readings and literary gatherings. He reached out to poets, essayists, and novelists who had roots in the city, inviting them to share their work in the intimate atmosphere of his store. The events were modest but electric. The smell of coffee from the cafe next door would drift in, mingling with the crisp pages of books and the quiet murmur of attendees discussing ideas. Samuel's space became a nexus where literary enthusiasts and curious passersby could interact, debate, and experience literature in a way that large chains or online stores could never replicate. Yet challenges persisted. The chains offered discounts Samuel could not match, and online retailers provided instant access to thousands of titles. Many evenings, he would watch potential customers walk past the store, lured by bright window displays elsewhere. The weight of competition pressed on him, a reminder that passion alone did not guarantee survival. But Samuel's philosophy was rooted in connection, not volume. He believed that a single visitor inspired to read, to think, or to write because of his store was worth more than hundreds of fleeting sales. He worked tirelessly, arranging shelves, cataloging acquisitions, and personally greeting every customer. His presence was warm, his recommendations tailored, and over time, word of mouth began to bring people back into the fold. The turning point came when Samuel discovered a box of forgotten manuscripts in a donated collection. The papers were delicate, filled with poetry and short stories from local writers of the 1980s and 1990s, many who had faded into obscurity. Samuel carefully restored and organized the works, creating a small exhibit within his store. He called it East Village Voices, and it drew attention from local newspapers, literary bloggers, and curious readers. People marveled at the preservation of history, and writers long forgotten were suddenly celebrated once again. The exhibit became a regular feature, rotating with new discoveries and solidified second chapters as a cultural landmark. Samuel also recognized the importance of community engagement. He began hosting workshops for aspiring writers and book restorers, offering guidance on everything from story structure to repairing torn pages. Young writers, previously intimidated by the publishing world, found encouragement and mentorship within his store's walls. Samuel encouraged them to explore their voice, to experiment with form, and to embrace the East Village's rich history as inspiration. The store became a living classroom, a place where literature was not only consumed, but also created. As the years passed, Samuel's bookstore began to thrive in unexpected ways. Tourists drawn to the East Village's artistic reputation discovered second chapters, leaving with unique books and stories about the neighborhood. Longtime residents returned, nostalgic for the days when small, independent shops defined the streets. Authors from across the city sought his advice or requested readings. And collaborations with nearby cafes and record stores created mini cultural festivals that drew large crowds. Each event reaffirmed Samuel's belief that community, passion, and dedication could overcome even the stiffest competition. Despite the success, Samuel never lost sight of the store's core essence: intimacy and authenticity. He resisted the temptation to franchise or sell out to larger companies. Instead, he focused on curating experiences that were impossible to replicate online. A handwritten recommendation tucked into a book, a private reading session for a few attentive listeners, or the serendipity of discovering a rare volume hidden on a top shelf. The tactile, personal, and often unpredictable nature of second chapters became its defining charm, a counterpoint to the impersonal efficiency of modern retail. One memorable evening, Samuel organized a themed night centered around East Village poets of the early 90s. Attendees, presendines, including old residents who had once frequented the same cafes and underground clubs, shared memories, read aloud from their favorite pieces, and discussed the neighborhood's evolution. Samuel watched as the younger generation engaged eagerly with the older, bridging decades through literature and shared experience. The walls of the bookstore seemed to vibrate with history, and Samuel realized that his struggle to preserve the shop had resulted not only in a business saved, but in a living testament to the East Village's creative spirit. The store also became a refuge during harder times in the city, when gentrification threatened to erase certain aspects of neighborhood culture. Second chapters remained a steadfast presence, a reminder of resilience and continuity. Samuel's dedication inspired other small business owners to collaborate, creating a network of cultural hubs that reinforced the uniqueness of the East Village. Cafes, music venues, and theaters joined forces with him, hosting joint events and cross-promotions that strengthened the local artistic ecosystem. Samuel's relationship with his customers deepened with each passing year. He remembered birthdays, favorite genres, and long-term reading projects. He encouraged patrons to explore books outside their comfort zones, fostering intellectual curiosity and broadening perspectives. Conversations in the store often extended far beyond literature, touching on philosophy, politics, art, and social issues. The bookstore became a microcosm of the East Village itself, diverse, vibrant, challenging, and full of life. Even as the internet and global marketplaces expanded, Samuel's business model proved resilient. He established a simple online presence, showcasing rare finds and upcoming events, but always prioritized in-person experiences. Many online visitors would become first-time customers, drawn not merely by the books, but by the promise of a personal connection with someone who lived and breathed literature. The digital layer complemented, rather than replaced, the intimate atmosphere that defined second chapters. In time, Samuel also documented the store's history through photographs, journals, and recorded interviews with authors and patrons. This archive became a resource for researchers, writers, and historians interested in the evolution of the East Village literary scene. His efforts ensured that the culture he fought to preserve would not be forgotten, even if the neighborhood continued to change around it. The most profound satisfaction came from witnessing the generational continuity that his store nurtured. Teens who first wandered in out of curiosity eventually became regulars, returning as adults to share their own writing or host workshops. Authors who had read their first rare books on Samuel's shelves went on to publish acclaimed novels and poetry collections, often crediting the bookstore as a foundational influence. Samuel realized that his small shop had become more than a business. It was a crucible for creativity, education, and cultural memory. Ultimately, the story of Samuel and his bookstore exemplifies the power of dedication, community, and passion. Despite external pressures from commercial chains and shifting markets, he remained true to his vision. By fostering a space where literature thrived, where stories were shared, and where local culture was celebrated, Samuel transformed Second Chapters into a living institution. The East Village's spirit, the grit, creativity, and interconnectedness of its people was reflected in every carefully placed volume, every curated reading, and every conversation held within those walls. Through patience, innovation, and unwavering commitment to authenticity, Samuel not only saved his bookstore, but also created a legacy that would endure for generations. Second Chapters became a beacon of literary culture, a testament to the enduring power of books, and a celebration of a neighborhood's soul. Samuel's journey reminds us that in a world increasingly driven by commerce and efficiency, spaces that nurture art, dialogue, and human connection are irreplaceable, and that one person's dedication can preserve history while inspiring the future.